Howdy friends, welcome to Free Range Ted. As you might have guessed, I am Ted. And today, I'm gonna show you why I call the channel Free Range Ted. You see, I had plans to make a very nice meatloaf with the tonkatsu sauce that I used in my fried chicken video. I think that would make a perfect sauce for a meatloaf. And I was gonna pair that with some scalloped potatoes, and I was gonna turn it into a sandwich. And that still sounds really fantastic, and I'm gonna still have to do it at some point, but I wasn't feeling it today. And last night at about midnight, I remembered that I had been thawing a tri-tip in my refrigerator that I had frozen from a purchase that I made a little while back. I bought two, didn't need but one, and I froze the other one. So I thought it out, and I remembered it at midnight last night that I needed to cook it. It's time. And I kind of wasn't feeling the whole meatloaf and scalloped potatoes idea at the moment. And while I was trimming it up and cleaning it up and getting it dry brined, I had this thought of like, can you do like a quick pastrami? Is there a way to do that? Because I think pastrami tri-tip would be fantastic. And so I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna make a pastrami, you usually brine it for, a good 7 days or so, maybe longer. And I didn't have 7 days. I had, just about 10 or 12 hours. So, my brain just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I decided to just put together a rub that I feel like I would use in a pastrami brine, which I've done before. I ground it all up into sort of like a sawdusty powder, and I'll give you the recipe for it, and decided to give it a test this morning on an end of the tri-tip that was a little bit thin, like it kind of tapered down, as it got toward one of the points. And I thought it wouldn't cook, it would cook a lot faster than the rest of the tri-tip, and therefore that part would be overcooked if I did it all together. So I actually chopped that part off and made a separate little mini steak out of it, and I tested out that pastrami rub on it. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it was not pastrami, but I'm also gonna go ahead and tell you it was damn delicious, and it had a faint little background hint, whisper of pastrami, and it was awesome. It was so awesome, in fact, that I decided to go ahead and do the entire tri-tip that way. And I made that for you today instead of the meatloaf and scalloped potatoes. I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it. And I even did it in my oven. Huh? Let me show you how I did it. Stay tuned. Look, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's really good. And if you watch this far and you're still interested, you're in for a treat. You're gonna be glad you did. If you like the video, if you like the tri-tip, if you like what I do here, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss out on future videos. Thank you. Okay, let's start with the tri-tip. You can't skimp here, y'all. You have to pick out a really nice cut of meat. It's gonna cost you a little bit, but it's totally worth it. Find one that's got great marbling, great color, and maybe it even looks like you could eat it right out of the package, even though it's gross raw meat. I get it, that's terrible, but that's what you want. It should look delicious, even though it's raw, just like this one. Now that you picked out a good tri-tip, you're going to want to take good care of it. You do that by dry brining it. Cover it in kosher salt on all sides. Pop it in the fridge for 24 hours. Once the steak has been dry brined, you're ready to hit it with your rub. I'll put the description of the pastrami rub in the comments with exact measurements and all of that. That way you have it if you want to try it out for yourself. You're going to want to make sure you cover it really heavily. It's a big cut of meat, so it can take a lot of seasoning. And there's no salt in the rub. You've already done the dry brining with the salt, so you're ready to go, and you don't have to worry about over-salting it. Make sure you put a good coat on it. That's how you're going to develop that crust. Once you have your rub applied, you're going to just leave your tri-tip out on the counter for a good 30 or 45 minutes. The idea is that you want it to kind of come up to room temperature. That'll help it cook a little bit more evenly. Once you've done that, you're going to transfer it over to your rimmed baking sheet with a wire rack on it. That's going to let the air circulate all the way around it. If you don't have it, that's okay. You can cook it directly in the rim baking sheet, but it is better if you cook it on a wire rack. Now, you're going to pop this in a 275-degree oven. The time it takes to cook is going to vary a little bit depending on the size of your tri-tip, how close to room temperature it was, the oven that you have. There's a lot of variables. So I would just tell you, start checking the internal temperature at about the 30-minute mark. What you're shooting for is about 125 degrees or so. We're gonna finish this on a cast iron skillet, so we wanna just shoot for somewhere between 125 and 130. Now get your cast iron pan ripping hot. This is how we're gonna develop the crust. You're gonna wanna put in a high smoke point oil. I use avocado oil, because we're gonna sear off this tri-tip. You're gonna wanna make sure you sear all the sides and edges and make sure that pan is smoking hot. Mine wasn't quite getting hot enough on this cooktop, so I moved over to my stove. Once you're done searing your tri-tip, go ahead and take it off and let it rest for a good 15 minutes. This step is really important. You wanna let all of those juices redistribute back into the steak. When you're done, go ahead and slice into it. As with any steak, you wanna make sure you cut against the grain. That'll give you a much more tender bite. Tri-tips have muscles running in multiple different directions, so make sure you take a look at that before you cook it so you can understand which direction the muscle fibers are running. Now you could eat this exactly like it is, and it would be fantastic. And I'm gonna do that with a good chunk of this, but today, I'm in the mood for a sandwich. Let's do it. Let's start with some fresh baked bread from Jenks Bakery here in Austin, Texas. Since we're not sponsored, we'll just give them a shout out. I like that better anyway. Now let's layer it up with 3 thick slices of tri-tip, a couple of slices of fresh Roma tomato, salted of course, and we'll top it off with some homemade chimichurri that's been marinating for 24 hours or so. This is gonna be fantastic. I gotta tell you, this turned out to be a fantastic sandwich. I could not be happier with it. And thank you for watching all the way to the end here. I really do appreciate your support. If you have some ideas for things you'd like to see me cook in the future, or maybe some spins on some recipes that are your favorites, let me know in the comments. I'd love to make those for you. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.